Hey everyone, Aussie Viking here to do another video. So lately, Star Wars has been a bit of a crazy subject lately, ever since The Last Jedi and even The Force Awakens and so on and so forth. It's been quite a big thing to talk about. So I want to talk about something positive, and then I wanted to talk about the fandom and stuff like that. But we'll get to the positive stuff first. That'll be part one, then part two will be the rest of the crazy shit. So part one is, I've been reading a lot of Legends lately. How much of Legends, you may ask? Well... here's some books that I've bought recently from Legends that I've started to read. Not all of them, I haven't read all of them, but I've read quite a bit. And I've started on things such as The New Order, which I've read all these books, and these are fantastic. And I just wanted to say, Legends is amazing. So, for those that don't know, Legends was what came out before Disney Extended Universe, and for a lot of people, it was the canon at the time, and it was great. It all worked as well as it could. And then Disney came in and just wiped it out. Just went, no, none of it exists. They brought stuff back, but in the end, none of the universe, from KOTOR to this to even afterwards, it does not exist. And then once Episode 7 came out, many people thought that Episode 7 brought up an extended universe that is boring, unimaginative, and uninspired, which I absolutely agree with. And for those that think, oh, no, they're wrong, give these a go. Read these books. Let's put it this way. Remember in Episode 7 when Han died, and then Episode 8 Luke died? There is a death of a certain character in these books. A main character. And his death has more emotion to it, more fallout, and more gravitas towards the characters than either Han or Luke's death in the trilogy. Yeah. That's true. Plus, there were certain aspects of this that just made the universe feel big again. Remember Episode 6 when it said a new order of Jedi must be created, there's a new republic and stuff like that, the Empire was defeated. Episode 7 comes in and just wipes that slate clean. So I don't feel like Ryan deserves the hate he gets for Last Jedi, because he had to go off the foundation of what JJ created. And what JJ created for me is absolute bullshit, unimaginative, uninspired crap that does not feel like Star Wars. It feels like a big budgeted fan film. It's created by somebody who's an OT purist who thinks that the original trilogy is how you make Star Wars. And that's not entirely true. I don't think it's true. Star Wars has always been about creating something new, interesting, and being imaginative. Other than aesthetics, in Episode 7, what else could you say was imaginative about a reused plot? Characters that are just boring other than Kylo. I thought Kylo was the best. A Mary Sue main character, and so on and so forth. What's interesting about it? Here's how Episode 4 starts off. There's an empire, it's powerful, a new republic is crumbling and dying, about to be taken over. The Jedi are gone. The only one left is a Jedi that is sort of being looked for. Obi-Wan Kenobi. How does Episode 7 start off? There's an empire back. There's a group of rebellion, and the Empire base will be in the First Order. The Jedi are gone, wiped out by someone who we later find out is part of the Skywalker bloodline. Solo, but still Skywalker's bloodline. And they're looking for Luke, which is similar in a way to Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know Obi-Wan Kenobi wasn't fully looked after, and they weren't looking, the whole entire Empire wasn't looking for him. But one of the main characters, Vader, wanting Obi-Wan, Kylo wanting Luke. It's similar. It's very similar. And I've heard people say, no. Here's a different perspective. Like, they made Episode 7 so different. And this is true. There are some big name Star Wars fans out there who have said they made this Star Wars Episode 7 so familiar so then they can pull the rug out under you with Last Jedi, and all that bullshit you said is right in your face. And there have been some big YouTubers that have said that. Which I find bullshit, mainly because the whole, JJ had drafts for the Episode 8 and Ryan threw them out, and they've got all these changing directors. No, I'm sorry. You can create so much bullshit as you want, but when it's obvious that they had no real theme of what they were creating throughout 7, 8, and 9, that doesn't hold any weight to me at all. Because if it did, say that they created Episode 7 to be what it was, a remake of Episode 4. First up, what's the point? You're creating a boring universe, extended universe. When it comes to more stories, you've got nothing. Most people, fans, and even non-fans wanted to see a New Order of Jedi. That's all gone. Luke is he is who he is in The Last Jedi, but there's no real story to that. No in-depth story as to why he's there. Not even a hint, really. Other than the fact is, I went there to die. Why did you go to the die? I failed. You failed a lot. Why don't you keep fighting? I just failed. I don't know. Whatever. Why? What is the point of creating such an unimaginative, uninspired, boring extended universe? And as a starter up to this universe, when nothing feels like it's earned. If Rey starts a New Order of Jedi, it is not earned. If Kylo becomes a new Lord, which I think it is earned to an extent, that's great. But nothing feels earned. Nothing feels like it deserves to be destroyed or taken back. Like the First Order taking over the Resistance. I mean, not Resistance, the Republic. What was the point? What was the point of having the Republic there and having it destroyed? Oh, because it shows themes of them not understanding this and that and their own integrity and stuff. And it's like, okay, so how did a remnant of the Empire become so strong? Oh, that's all. That's all in the extended universe. So I've got to pay more money to understand a story that should have at least been enhanced or told. Like look at the prequels and original trilogy. There were moments like, oh, you thought in the Clone Wars, or what happened on Antion, or what happened at Cade and Nemoidia. These things are mentioned that make you go. They open the universe up, but they're not consistent with the plot. You don't need it. You don't need to learn these stories to understand the plot of what's going on. So then, when an extended universe comes and goes, you want to know what happened on Antion? Here's a story. You want to know about the Clone Wars? Well, there's the movies. But then here's another story. Here's a story within the Clone Wars that make you go, oh wow, this was kind of cool. All of these didn't exactly swam into the plot of the Clone Wars. And you didn't really need to pay much more money to get those stories. You didn't even need those stories, really. Again, other than Clone Wars. So it's kind of like... But here, with this extended universe, you need the extended universe to understand the main plots of the movies. And to me, that's disgusting. And it's stupid. And it's idiotic. And it makes no sense for me and for a lot of fans as to what's going on. Which is why I believe Legends to be better and superior. First of all, it did its own thing, but it worked within the limitations of what Lucas wanted, but also what he created for. So one of the themes of Star Wars has always been about family. These books, this extended universe follows that to a T. First up, Luke and Mara Jade, who is his wife, and it's a really good story, by the way, get married and have a son later on. He's one of the last children born of the Skywalker bloodline within the main characters. And he's a great character at that. Because Luke has to learn to be a father, he has to learn to also be a grandmaster at the same time, and there's some great stories and moments that happen in that. And then we go to Han and Leia. They have 3 kids. 2 twins, Jaina and Jason, and Anakin Solo, which is great. First up, Anakin Solo is named after her father because she finds out in a really good book, which is on the last one there, about who his father was, who her father was as a child growing up in the Phantom Menace, and also later on who he was in the Clone Wars as a hero. She based her son around his legacy, not Vader's legacy, which is great because she's basically comes to terms with who her father truly was. And there are other things as well, such as Luke has a son with Mara Jade, who it's a really great story, and he has to learn to be a father, she has to learn to be a mother, and there's a lot of family values and themes in that. And then we got Leia and Han, Jason and Jaina, and Anakin Solo. Anakin is interesting because he doesn't turn to the dark side, although originally they were going to make him turn to the dark side, but too much like the prequels, so they thought no. Jason is basically what Ben became. Ben Solo created Jason Solo, and Jaina was his sister. Now, it's plausible that they wanted Rey to be the Jaina of the family, possibly, but they obviously didn't. But the thing is, though, it feels like there's a legacy. Here it feels like there's more of a legacy for these characters that go off and do their own thing than there is in, say, the new canon where they throw that all out. Of course, people will fight you against that and say, no, it's fine, it's something different, it's different, compelling. You're an idiot if you don't see it. I find that an idiotic statement in itself. But hey, welcome to the Star Wars fandom. So what works a lot about this is it does its own thing. It doesn't feel like a rehash. There are definitely stories and moments that feel like rehashes. Agreed, 100%. But for the most part, these stories here are fantastic. The whole entire Yuuzhan Vong War is fantastic, I think. I'm really enjoying it. We obviously got things like KOTOR. Those were great. We've got the ones like Republic Commandos, which is fantastic as well, although somewhat out of canon in a way if you follow the Clone Wars TV show, although then again it's kind of a mix. So we also got some great ones like the Darkness one. This one is more so, the good thing about this one is it connects to the prequels more so, which I love. I like how it connects to the prequels more so, and here in this trilogy Luke learns about who his father was more so, and it's interesting to say the least. However, one of the best ones out of here, I would have to say, are these. The Thrawn trilogy is great. Of course, the biggest downside with Legends is the fact that a lot of it was created before the prequels, therefore there was some books in here that weren't updated for when the prequels came out to have more information. Like here, I believe it says that the Clone Wars were 40, 50 years before New Hope, when in fact they were 23, 4 years before, so stuff like that. But if you can headcanon and just all that, these stories are still fantastic. But that's the one thing that Lucasfilm and Disney's canon has that is better in a way than Legends, is the fact that it can coherently compress and have stories that make sense. Between episode 1 and 6 and even beyond it, it makes a lot more sense in a way because it can take it all in, it knows all the ins and outs, so on and so forth. But the stories that are being created aren't actually the best. So what Legends does better is, like I said, it does the theme of stories better. It's imaginative, it's just not a straight up rehash. It did its own thing, and a lot of it was pretty damn great. Now, there's also that emotional value. Like I said, in the trilogy, there were characters that died from the main group that I cried reading a book about this character dying and the aftermath of it. That's a rarity. That is a goddamn rarity, and I never thought that was going to happen, but I did. And there's so many great interactions with these characters that you feel heartbroken when they go through this, go through that. It's powerful. I can't say the same for any of the main characters other than Kylo in the sequel trilogy. I think Rey is a Mary Sue. I think she's a terrible character. She's the worst female protagonist in Star Wars. She's the worst main protagonist in Star Wars. I only find it interesting when she's with Kylo. Finn and Poe have a good chemistry, but they are still boring characters, although they have that chemistry which makes you happy that they're on screen. Rose is Rose. That's it there. Maz, interesting somewhat, but I want to know more about her. At the moment, she's wise, old, but she's still a bit boring. But of course, that could be extended upon in the comic books, but you got to pay more money for that. I got to pay comics and this and that to understand a character more so. I shouldn't have to. When I watched the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy, by the end of their stories, I felt connected and felt like there was a great story behind the characters and their arcs. Anakin from a boy that wanted to save the universe to almost controlling it. Luke from being a farm boy to being a full-blown Jedi. These had character arcs. These felt like fully grown people. What does Rey become? Rey to me is a worse character because she had a great start. Let's be honest here. When it starts off and even though it's a rehash of episode 4, she's a scavenger in a way and she's on a desert planet. She's got no one and stuff like that. She wants more in her life. That's fine. But when it starts off and she's like, she wants to know what happened to her family, why they left her, and you start thinking, oh, this could be interesting. The fact that she wants to get out of there and all this and all that is fine. She's got a great startup. She has a very solid startup for her character. But instead of evolving, failing, bringing it in, she turns from a character to perfect. It's like, oh, we're being attacked by TIE fighters. Let's go into the Millennium Falcon. And she flies it perfectly. Even though afterwards she's like, I don't know how I flew that. I've never done that before. I've never left the atmosphere before. And it's like, you've never left the atmosphere. You've never been in a fight before, yet you did all that. A lot of people are like, oh, but it's the Force. But at this point in time, she never had the Force. It's never truly said that she awokened with the Force, from what I remember. So here it's kind of like, okay, but she might fail later on. But then they meet Han, and she's able to fix Han's ship like that. Okay. And here's the thing, though. She doesn't say anything like, oh, Unkla Plot told me this and showed me this. She just went, I did this. I didn't know it was going to work, but I did this. I pulled this. And the way she says it's done in a way where she's like, I didn't know this was going to work, but it did. And you kind of... And what sucks is that moment there is interesting because it's a moment of her saying, look, I've done something great. I'm a good person. I'm not useless. But it doesn't go anywhere because she then becomes even better. First time she gets a gun, she fires it twice and then hits a stormtrooper dead on. And then she doesn't pick up a lightsaber, yet when she does, she's able to use the Force easily. She's able to fight Kylo Ren easily as well. And that's stupid. She's able to do all this great stuff. She's able to go into his mind and it'll, beat him. Someone who's been trained in the Force for 30 plus years, and she beats him like it's nothing. Nothing. She's able to come in and not fail, and that's my problem with her character arc and her as a character. She doesn't progress. She doesn't fail, and when you think she does fail, it's for the betterment of the story. Nothing truly comes together in a way that makes you go, wow, she's earned this. She hasn't earned anything. She hasn't earned the right to be looked at as a Jedi, even a Padawan. And that's the annoying part. She's too perfect for me. She's too perfect for a lot of characters. And people are like, oh, but this and that and that and this. And it's like, no, it doesn't work. Here's the thing. Do you want to know how she's so good with the Force and knows how to use the lightsabers pretty well, even though she's never used one? This is explained in a book. An Extended Universe book. There's no mention of it in the films. Not even a quick one. But no. It's mentioned that in her first experience with Kylo, when he does the mind thing, she was able to grab his knowledge and abilities to use the Force and a lightsaber. Now, this is where people actually do come into saving its grace and say, oh no, but it's fine, that's awesome, it's a different perspective, and there is a lot of people that actually believe this, but look at it from the outpost of a universe, which is, I know when it comes to filmmaking, there's so many different ways to tell a story, there's so many different ways to take in a story, from the universe, writing a story, writing characters, just bring it all together. It's very hickety-pickety. But think of it like this. If a Jedi Force user can steal the ideas of how to use the Force and the ability to use a lightsaber well without the ability to actually learn and fail, then why didn't the Order of the Jedi in the prequels go, alright Yoda, time for you to mind meld with the younglings, and so they can become awesome? It kind of destroys that in a way. And I know they'll bring something up like, oh, okay, it only happened because of their Force connection, but the Force connection didn't actually happen until later on, did it not? Yeah, this is the part where it's like, I find the bullshit of it. It's all planned out to be bullshit. But hey, people want to believe that they can believe that. But when you look at, say, these ones here, these main characters that are born from the same bloodline as the Chosen One fail. Ben fails. Anakin Solo fails. Jason and Jaina fail, but they come together in the end and they still keep fighting. And it adds so much. There's a moment here in one of the books, I believe it was Dark Tide 2, Ruin, where Ben literally has a powerful moment where somebody who he saved dies, right? She's a Jedi, and he's just so emotionally destroyed that he tries to look, he has to take a step back and be like, I can become stronger, I've got to be better, I've got to make sure this doesn't happen again. And it was a very good moment, because he lost someone who he was close to. Same with Jason. Jason does a lot, and he has to go through many moments where he's like, wow, I screwed up. There's a moment where he has a vision of the Force, and it's a positive vision. He's like, all right, I'm going to do this vision. I'm going to go out, and I'm going to make this a reality. It doesn't happen like that. He loses it. It becomes completely the opposite of this vision, and he realizes that he has to take a new approach to the Force. Which is why I think Legends works, because these characters feel like they are evolving and becoming their own person, where in canon, it's just like, there's potential, at least with Rey, and then she's perfect. Maybe a little dip here and there, but it's nothing. And they might change in the third one. I don't know. But do you really think that a lot of Star Wars fans are going to accept her as a good character if it takes 3 films to become that good character? I mean, in a way. Because remember, Anakin and Luke failed. I mean, they got their arms cut off. They kept on failing for their own. As a character, they failed a lot. Anakin gets his arm cut off and gets hurt a lot because he ran in to fight Dooku. Luke ran in because he thought he could fight Vader to save his friends, and their own hubris in a way defeated them. Nothing like that has happened to Rey, therefore I feel like it's a boring character. At least that's my interpretation of why I don't like Rey and why I think she's a Mary Sue. when your main protagonist is boring. Yeah, and it's not because she's a woman. I don't care. If she was a man and she was the same as this, I would be complaining about that too. But yeah. Moving on. People talk about the insanity of Legends, which I always find interesting. Yes, there is some insane stuff in Legends. It makes sense because it was 40 years of pop culture movement, what you can get away with. It was different perspectives. There was 40 years of that. And you're going to get crazy shit. But when you look at, say, canon for Disney, there's a lot of crazy shit in there too. First up, the Mortis gods. Force gods. That's pretty crazy. The ability of space whales and rebels that can go into faster than light drives without any technology. Pretty crazy. The fact that the magic that you can bring, say, Darth Maul back from having his limbs cut off. Kind of crazy, although this all does in a way fit into the craziness of the Force. The Force was always there as a way to write basically anything within your own, obviously, rules of what you create as the Force and what Lucas created. And Lucas created the Force to be its own writing thing of insanity. So I think people should keep that in mind. But there's also the crazy stuff of the fact that there is space vampires in your canon that suck the Force out of you. That's a thing. There are giant flea things, alien species that are giant flea things. That's the thing. There is a lot of other crazy shit as well. Like there are humanoid panther, alien, grotesque things that were created. Those are pretty crazy as well. Like, I'm fine with people saying that Legends was full of crazy shit. It is. So is canon, universe, extended stuff. But it makes sense. Sci-fi fantasy is what Star Wars is at its core. You're going to get crazy shit within that. I'm fine with that. But don't say that Disney's extended universes is 100% better when there is just as much crazy shit. I mean, hell, they did a story in Vader, which was basically reminiscent of the Dark Empire of clones and such, for a character to keep coming back. Yeah. Just saying. So, on that though, a lot of what I like in Disney does work. The fact that they've got the whole entire 1 to 6 available is great. The fact that they've got things like Thrawn, which I believe they've said may very well live into the sequel trilogy, far end of the sequel trilogy, which is great. There's the aesthetics of the First Order. I don't really care about the First Order in general, but the aesthetics are fantastic. Kylo's great. I like the idea of the Knights of Ren. I like the idea of Snoke, or at least did. I like a lot of things in the new universe, but they don't come together as well as it does in Legends. There is a lot of great stuff in Legends that, well, yes, is being brought over. But, I mean, they could have at least gone when they wiped Legends and gone, alright, but there are some things, like they did with Clone Wars, that are still valid. You know, Revan's still valid, KOTOR's still valid, certain stories are still valid. You know, it would have been so much better. So, what would I say you should read in Legends? First up, I would say read Timothy Zahn's stories. After Return of the Jedi, read all 3 of these. Absolutely read all 3 of these books. Do it. It's fantastic. I would also say you should try reading this one. Now, this one comes after episode 7. So I'd say read this first. This is a great story about Leia learning about Anakin as a child. It's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'd say read that first, then go to Thrawn. After Thrawn, this is when things get a little interesting. After Thrawn, I would say read some Mara Jade stuff. Read some of the Mara Jade books. Read the Union comic book where they get married after a few of the Mara Jade books. Read the Jedi Order where he recreates the Jedi Order. Read the Yuzong Vong War. Read at the very least, these 3. These 3 will give you a good understanding on the entirety of the start of the Yuzong Vong War. And you can continue on if you want. After that, though, I would say you should move on to... I haven't got the books yet. They're coming in. the books that talk about Ben and being born. Because once that happens, read the Dark Swarm, the Swarm trilogy, because that should teach you about how Ben is growing and how he is as a human, how they have to interact and stuff, and there's some good stuff there. Then we move on to comics. Legacy. After you've gotten through most of the Vong, start on Legacy. It starts 130 years after the death of the first Death Star, and it's amazing. This is honestly one of the best Star Wars stories in the whole of Star Wars, even new canon. Once you've done that, if you really want to, I'd then say go on to Old Republic stuff with Revan and KOTOR and stuff like that. Those are some of the ones. These are just a portion of them that I would recommend. Because here's the thing. If you are a big universe lore fan of the new Disney stuff, give those books a try if you want to get into Legends. Because if you get into Legends, you will have at least one moment where you go, wow, why the hell was this not done with the sequel trilogy? And I think a lot of people would agree. Everyone that I know that's a fan of the extended universe in Disney's one, they've actually read a few Legends books and gone, wow, that's so much better. Not everyone, mind you, but a lot of them have. And I agree. I absolutely agree that that's how it should be. I feel like there's a lot of problems with how Disney are doing a lot of it. It is unimagined. It is uninspired. You can flip that and say it was intentional or not. I disagree 100%. And I feel like they're just making it for the money more so than a story with characters and the universe itself. Because the characters and stories in Legends have made me emotional. Like, I've read these stories and gone, wow, I'm connected to these characters. They're fantastic. Other than Kylo in the sequel trilogy, I can't say that with anyone else. I know they've got potential, but none of that potential is being used in the films. And that is my biggest problem here. And to an extent, sometimes the fans that jump in and say you're an idiot because you don't understand it, they come up with things that goes are fully against certain aspects of what Lucas created with the original trilogy itself. First up, though, I don't agree that we should be attacking the actors and actresses of Star Wars. I don't think we should be attacking anyone. We should be telling them the problems that we have with their universe. Tell Ryan, tell JJ, tell Lucasfilm, tell Disney. That's what we should be doing. Not attacking them, because that makes us look worse. On that, though, Disney should have known better. They should have known that they could have, with JJ and Lucasfilm and Disney, all this money, they should have known that they could have created a far better start to this era. Because right now, I don't care about this era. I want the next film, I'm going to watch it once, that's it. I'm either going to like it or hate it. But I don't care. I just want what comes next. I want a new Order of Jedi. I want them to learn from their past. I want a new Order of Sith. I just want what we were promised in episode 6, and none of this, oh, it goes against your expectations, therefore it's shit because you're an idiot. No. I find that argument to be absolute bullshit. And I'm not saying that we should follow what the fans want wholeheartedly, but at least give them what we were set up to be given. But no, we had to rehash the original trilogy. And it is a rehash, okay? Maybe not 100% rehash, but there is a good portion of this story that is a rehash. And it, to an extent, it annoys me. There are fans out there that will defend it so blindly and say that you're a fool because you don't understand it, or it just goes against what you wanted. And it's like, But that goes on to the whole next part that I will be talking about. But for this one with Legends, I've talked a lot of what I love about Legends. I think Legends is superior in a lot of ways. I think there is stuff in canon that I think is also great and in a way is better than what was done in Legends. I agree to that 100% as well. And to be honest, I felt like if you took the best of Legends and the best of this new universe and whacked them together, you would have one of the best Star Wars extended universes ever made. But we didn't get that. We got rehash bullshit that really goes nowhere. If you have an imagination, if you have an understanding of Star Wars, this new Star Wars doesn't go anywhere. The peace between the 30 years of peace, it's like they're gonna have to retcon that if they want to get rid of it and make it interesting. And they're gonna have to retcon a few things. They might pull a few Ashokas by having, say, Luke have a child, or that it got rid of, which is one thing that I kind of hope we get. So not too big of spoilers in this, but in Legacy, it starts off 130 years later, and it starts off with a Skywalker, Cade Skywalker. They attack on the temple that he's at as a Jedi, gets attacked by Sith, and things happen, and he gets basically thrown away. 7 years later, he becomes a mercenary, a drug-addicted, sex-addicted mercenary. Already sounds great, right? And nobody knows he's a Jedi. Nobody knows he's a Skywalker. He's resented the name of a Skywalker. He doesn't care for it. He's not a Skywalker anymore. All that brings is death. All that brings is a legacy that he does not want to become a part of. It's brilliant. And I think Cade Skywalker could work very well within new canon. So, my idea is Luke, and I think this would add a lot to Luke and kind of not piss off as much of the fandom that they did with The Last Jedi. So for me, Luke had a son with Mara Jade, Cade Skywalker. However, Snoke tried to get to him. So to save him, Luke gets Han to send him off with some mercenaries and stuff to live his life, to cut him off. A year or two later, Luke goes and fights Snoke, thinks he's killed him, but he hasn't. So then when Ben Solo was born, Snoke can come in and do the dark side stuff. I think that could kind of witch it into a way where it's like, so it makes sense for this character to not be in the main series, but also it adds the legacy and kind of adds in a few themes of the Skywalker name being so big that he doesn't care for it anymore. I think there's a lot of great potential there. It just depends if they do it, though. I feel like that way would be more interesting. Because first of all, Ben Skywalker is one of my favourite characters in Legends, and it's great. He's a great character, and I would love to see him, or at least something like him, a son of Luke Skywalker, to be in this canon. Because he was such a great character, and I want people to experience that. And if they don't experience it in Legends because they just don't like Legends because it's, it's out there, it's too much information, there's too much to read, it's not canon, so many ways why people don't want to read them, they can at least get a variety of that in canon. I think that would be great to see. Maybe you could help learn to become a Jedi Order, the new Jedi Order, because if Rey does create a new Jedi Order, she hasn't earned it. Shit, they might make it earn it in the last film. Plausible. But so far, she hasn't earned it. And I think me and a lot of fans are going to be like, no, she hasn't. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Legends. It's one of my favourite Star Wars stories ever. There's some good, there's some bad, and there's some in the middle, and there's some fantastic greats like Legacy and KOTOR itself, the beforehand stuff. There's a lot of great stuff there. And like I said, there's a lot of great books as well that you can read, which I agree with. If you want to find them, go on Amazon, go to your bookstore, find them, get them on cheap price, and have fun, because these are great stories. And like I said, if you are a fan of the extended universe, Disney-wise, give at least a few books a go, because you will at least have a moment where you read them and go, wow, I really wish this was canon. Because Star Wars was always built on nostalgia, imagination, and mythology and force and stuff like that. But it did it in its own way. The nostalgia that Lucas felt when he created Star Wars, he didn't just make it an obvious recut of the old shows that he watched. He was inspired by them aesthetically and universe-wise, and he created that in his own image, in his own way. He didn't blatantly rip it off. He used his imagination to extend that and to create something new. Can't say the same for what Disney's done with this trilogy, this new era. So, yeah, this is part 1 of this video. The next part is going to go and focus on the fandom, which is... oh boy, this is going to be interesting. So I shall see you in part 2. See you in a while. Bye.